Hello at last.
Hi, how are you?
We're good. Yes, we in fact ended up in a horrible traffic jam, but made up our time pretty well. So here we are.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad we're able to do this. Yeah, no worries. We're excited to meet with you today.
And our 17-year-old granddaughter was very pleased to see us. We even bought a
Yeah.
big we bought a big 1.7 to have it hang above the table. So
Oh, nice.
I was very
Those
pleased about
balloons.
that.
Oh, awesome. Everyone have a good time.
That was great. Yeah, yeah. In fact,
Yeah.
they were going off to a Marvel film, so it worked out quite well. We wouldn't have stayed any longer than that anyway. And
Okay.
we did leave in good time, but it's just one of those things. Toronto apparently is the worst. It's the busiest motorway in the world, apparently.
Oh, really?
So,
Oh, I
so
had no idea.
it's 8 lanes each side.
Mm, wow. Um,
So
well,
hello to Braden and Renee. Is that right?
Hi.
And Braden, funny enough, my wife's brother was called Braden. It's not that common a name. He was spelled Braden, which is perhaps more common. So
yeah, I'll let them introduce themselves. You know
yeah,
me, I think.
and Wendy will be with me in a moment. She's just um, applying some. Oh, how can I put it? Makeup.
I get that. But yeah, so I'm so during since the last time we talked, I moved to Florida, as you
Yes,
know. Yeah, it's warm.
it
I
must
like
be
it.
must be quite nice after Idaho.
Yeah, yeah. Idaho at the around this time is just snowing every day.
Yeah,
So it was like 75 degrees today.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's great. Yeah, so yeah, I've been loving it. I'm in my first semester. Um, and yeah, and I wanted to carry on the project that I've been doing in Idaho
sure,
with the MTNA group, which is, uh, interviewing the living composers and just like what you guys are doing. And
sure.
yeah,
And
so
are
I
you are
thought of
these?
you.
What do you two do? Are you postgraduate students or?
Yeah, so I'm a first year um, piano performance major,
Oh, lovely. Yeah,
master's degree in piano performance and piano ped.
terrific. And Braden?
Yeah, so I'm studying second year master's in piano performance as well. And yeah, happy to
Yeah,
be at FSU for my second degree at FSU. So
yeah, that's great. So, do you want how's the best to do it? I mean, I could start talking to you, and Wendy will be with me in a moment. But if, do you want to start some questions already? Is that the way to go?
Yeah, I think Braden has to go by 9, so I was gonna let him ask his questions
Okay.
first, so he could get his questions. But yeah, so Braden, we could start with you.
okay, yeah. So when did you begin composing and when did you decide you wanted to do this as a career?
I was 14 when I began composing, and in fact, I've got a little later. I've got a little sound clip of a couple of pieces I wrote when I was 16. Um, one of which has just been published. Actually, it's quite funny, like all those years later. But I was very interested in music and in piano from a very early age. And it was only at about the age of 14, I suddenly, one day, for some reason, I decided I'd like to try and write something of my own. And the idea of making a living from it came about spontaneously. I became a freelancer after my second degree, and I was published almost immediately. And then I had a bestseller very much, not immediately, but very quickly. And that series has now sold 2 million copies. So in a sense, it's provided a background income for the sort of range of other activities I've done as well. But I was lucky. What I'm saying is you've got to have a hit in a way if you're not going to pursue a career which was just basically teaching or whatever. But in fact, I've never really done teaching in any wholehearted way. I've always been a composer because I made enough at the beginning to keep me going, and then once I did that, I did it by sheer quantity. Isn't that a funny thing to say? In other words, I wrote 4 books, which went well, and then I wrote another 40 books on the back of them over a time period. And so you don't have to sell vast numbers of each book, but you can sell modest numbers of lots of books. There's another way of doing it, and I still pursue that policy of slightly of doing things in series, if you like, and like I wrote a piano sonata, but I've written a second piano sonata, so that I'm always looking to follow up something if I've done something to follow up something else. Is that enough of an answer for you there?
Yeah, no, that's great. And then the other thing I wanted to add, one of the other things I wanted to ask is, what was your first pedagogical composition?
It's rather probably linked to the fact that I became a school teacher after my first degree. In those golden days, if you had a degree, which I did in music, I had a first class honours degree in music from a New Zealand university. I went to the education department because my wife was training to be a librarian and I just needed to find a job. I went in and said, I've got a music degree. Are there any jobs going teaching music in schools? And they said, here's a list of them, take your pick. No teacher training required or anything. You just basically turned up and started doing it. I don't think it's the case anymore, but I was thrown in at the deep end with teaching teenage boys, as it happens. And of course, I realized that my interest in Szymanowski and Prokofiev and Shostakovich wasn't really their interest. They were interested in heavy metal and thrash metal and death metal. And then another school I taught at was all soul and R&B and so on. So I was thrown quite quickly into confronting popular music, and if you like, and started writing pieces for my students. So that's when I began to weld together the idea of a classical music, piano music background with the sound of popular music, which is what has become my thing, if you like. And micro jazz, which is the series I'm talking about, was really a sort of combining of 2 different strands. One of them was very precisely notated music, like music teachers could relate to, and the other was the fact that students played them and thought, I know this groove. So it was really, it was a kind of magical combination, which has continued to this day, really.
Awesome. So the next thing I was going to ask is, when you're composing, do you start with the title or the music first?
I pretty much always start with the music. And in fact, I'm quite interested in this because I say to people, yeah, my piano's making a sound here. Then if you play one note, it immediately suggests something else. In other words, anything will get me started. And I do quite frequently work with loops and that sort of thing. You know, in other words, I work with rhythmic material. I'm writing a series of pieces, of speculative pieces at the moment for library companies. I've done quite a bit of that, and I love the idea that you just start with a fragment of something and build something on top of it. But I don't start with titles, but I do quite frequently have to figure out what a title might be for a piece after I've written it. And in fact, I wrote a very large series called Connections, which I'll be making reference to, and I had to come up with 200 titles. And so I cut a whole lot of pieces of paper up with titles on and pulled them out of a box. And then thought, no, that's not the right title, and put it back and picked up another one. So it can almost be as sort of arbitrary as that, because, you know, although some pieces are obviously blues or rock and roll or whatever they might be, and they might have titles like which are related to that. But otherwise, of course, sometimes it's things like A Summer's Day or A Walk in the Park or whatever it might be. You know, it's just if it creates a slight image, you might think of a title as well. I'll just check if Wendy's about. Wendy, are you about? Because I don't know if you want to address the same questions to Mrs. Norton.
Hello. We've just come off the road. And it wasn't a
Wendy,
gig. Hi, Melody. Lovely to see you.
great to see you as well. Yeah, you're both looking great.
So Braden is off at 9 o'clock, so he's asking his questions now.
Okay.
Did you want to ask similar questions of the other composer in the house here?
Yeah,
let's do it.
yeah, Brayden, you could ask. Yeah.
Okay. So when did you begin composing, and when did you decide you wanted to do that for a career?
I never got to that point. I I guess I always composed as far back as I can remember. Particularly, I taught piano and music theory for a very long time, and I used composition. I think composition is so incredibly important, so that young students can get their own ideas out of their head and out of their emotions and what have you, to express themselves, not just to play other people's feelings, which I think are just as equally important. But so I always used composition as a tool in the very beginning with all of my students, even just starting with 2 or 3 notes. Let's see what we can do with these keys on the piano, and how you can make different things with them and build from there. I don't think I ever considered doing composition as a career, or really seriously, until I married this gentleman who's sitting to my
Stage
that's my
right.
right. Hard to tell sometimes. I've had written a fair amount of music, not a lot, but a fair amount of music before we were married, but never really done anything with it. And it wasn't until Chris encouraged me. He said, you know, you should do something more with what you're doing, and go on and do some more composition if you feel you want to. And I did feel I wanted to, and I have, and I've enjoyed it tremendously. I've always been a person who I'm a writer, and I dabble in lyrics, and written a lot of lyrics, and that's what I am really. I'm a lyric composer, and so I write a piece of music, and I always am thinking lyrically about where I'm going with my music. Not that I put words with every piece, but
you could.
I could. So I'm not an avant-garde composer, because I'd have a heck of a time putting lyrics to some of my music. But I think composition is, for any musician, the ability to compose, or even just to get to know their instrument better by using their own methods of bringing things out of their instrument. I think that's incredibly important.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I was gonna ask, what was your first pedagogical composition?
My first pedagogical one, because I think was I'm trying to think. That's a very hard question for me, because some of mine I wouldn't call them pedagogical, but I can't even remember the name of it.
But pieces you wrote for students very early on.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think of what they were.
As you say, it may have
stumped
been
me.
1 or 2 notes, just simple things.
Well, and I always worked in that way. I would start with maybe 3 keys, and then work it up, and have the children go home with the idea of experimenting with those keys and having some ideas. But I think the Chaconne was the first one that I composed that was really pedagogically sound, and had real pianistic.
And I have that as part
values.
of a little presentation of audio
Do
coming
you?
up. Yeah, the
That's
Chaconne.
good. That's good. I'm glad I mentioned the right one.
Mm.
We're tired. We've had a long day. But I guess every different piece I write with a different pedagogical idea in mind. And we were listening to them on the way home tonight. We find that my body of music
On Spotify
lasts us about as long as it takes to go from Stratford to Toronto. and
they're played randomly, which is rather nice. So that they're mixed up. They're not like in the album order,
we don't
which
put
actually
them in
works
order
very
each
well.
time. Yeah. And I'm surprised at how often I use different pedagogical ideas. rhythmically, or we were talking tonight about some of them seem to be almost like uh, I'm tired. So I don't mean to, but we've had a long day, a really long day. You were saying that when they were playing one of them, and you said it sounded, oh my gosh.
Oh, like it was a two-part invention.
Oh, that was the
Yeah,
one. Yes,
yeah.
yes, the two-part invention sounded like a two-part invention, and some of them have very intricate left hand against the right hand things that don't tend to be inventions, but they're just um, maybe one hand imitating the other, but perhaps not quite at the same time, offset melodies and rhythms. But it's amazing how often your pedagogical ideas will come into the fore when you're composing, and that's the fun of it. That's really the fun, making it a little difficult for the hands, um, but also making it pleasant to listen to. Because it's no good if it's just hard. Not to me. To me, I always have to hear something in it that affects my ears and my brain, as well as my emotions. So, sort of a three-part quiz.
Yeah, Wendy is basically a melody writer.
Yeah.
A very, very good sense of because a row of notes can easily. I've been doing quite a lot of teaching of composition to various people, and often people come up with something, and you think, well, there's not quite enough identity in this melody, but it's a funny trick to find a way of making a melody feel like it's got a real identity. And in fact, Wendy has just finished a commission for 2 unaccompanied flute pieces, which is a really good exercise, where you're writing something with just melody. And she did a very interesting job of that, I think. And one of them was called Arioso. It's still like an operatic piece for flute.
Mhm.
So
The other one is called
Tiptoe
Tiptoe
Tango.
Tango. Yeah. Which is
I
sort
love
of,
that.
yeah. So I agree with what Chris is saying, that sometimes, and I taught composition for a number of years with my students, sometimes they're so intent on making it big, and the ideas are not carried through. So therefore, it's just like a composite of a whole bunch of things that have no connecting line, and you've got to have it. It's somewhere along the line. It's got to mean something that goes on, not just chop chop and then chop chop and then chop chop. I don't think they get any satisfaction from that, and they wonder why they don't. And until you can help them to connect their ideas in some way, whether it's by key or by rhythm or by taking that melody and putting it maybe into another octave, or repeating it in a minor key or whatever, there's something that's got to connect them, or the ideas just don't seem to be valid to me. That's my impression. I'm sure there are ways of doing that, and I've heard ways that it can be done, but it's a very accomplished composers who can. In fact, Chris played some music by a friend of ours, who is actually a trumpet player and taught trumpet in the States at universities, and he's a wonderful composer. And his ideas are very contemporary and very, very different. But when Chris was able to sit at the piano and play the accompaniment, it was a viola accompaniment, and his wife was a violist, and it made perfect sense. The whole thing made sense, even though I don't think there was I couldn't have put two notes together and remember them. I'd have a hard time. Of course, it's my age.
So is that your questions, Braden, do you think? Or if you
Oh,
One more. I was gonna ask. Do you start with the title or do you start with the music itself when you're composing?
It depends. but often the melody. Well, we were talking about that on the way home too. I wrote a piece called Glendalough, and I had been in Ireland in 2000 and I don't know, it doesn't matter. And had the privilege of going to Glendalough, which is one of the oldest Christian settlements, or was, and one of the oldest Christian burial grounds. And there was such a peace there that it was absolutely lovely. And it meant something to me because I had a sister whose name was Glenda. Chris has a sister whose name is Glenda. So I wasn't thinking along that line at all when I sat down to write a piece. I just wanted a feeling I wanted to do something in a sort of an Irish Celtic vein. And when I
And
started
in fact,
writing
we have Glendalough to play you as well on our
it,
group
geez,
of
am I
pieces.
good.
But
excited.
what I asked Wendy if she'd written the piece when she visited the place, and she said, "No, I wrote the piece quite recently." But when I
Yes, within
wanted
the
a
last
title, I
year or so.
remembered the feeling of being in that place, and that seemed a very appropriate title for it.
The melody suggested the same feeling to me that I had when I was down there, and I thought, well, this is a lovely title for it, is Glendalough. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I have an idea, and I think, oh, well, Halloween, for instance. I mean, how much more you tailor the piece to fit the feeling. But I've a lot of my other pieces, isolation, introspection, things like that.
Feelings.
It's the feeling that I have when I play it that suggests the title to me.
Wendy is also very good at creating titles for my pieces when I can't think of one. And often, in fact, she says, "That's not the right title." In other words, I give her the title. She said, "No, that's not the name." So it's quite fun having another creative person in the household,
Well,
if you
we
like.
talk about it, and you're the same with me.
Yeah.
You give me a lot of
I know
help
I
with
take
that.
notice of your ideas, but you ignore mine.
You're right. That's true.
So
Typical husband-wife situation, I think.
anyway, we were saying on the way down, it must be quite unusual to have a husband and wife who are both composers.
Oh, I think there are a few.
There'll be some, but it's not that common.
I've never interviewed a husband and wife composer like duo, so
And of
this
course,
is great.
we'll be making reference to the micro musicals, which is a set of 30 musicals which Wendy and I have written together, which are being published by Boozy and Hawks. And she wrote the lyrics and scripts for many of them, and I wrote the music. But some of them she wrote both. In other words, she wrote the music and the lyrics. So it really is
And
a
the
joint.
story.
It really, thank you. It really is a joint effort. So that's the first thing we collaborated on, and I like collaboration. I like working with somebody else. And Wendy was surprised to find I'm not a competitive person.
That's
So
what I was just going to say. I think for the celebrity that Chris has had over the years and the amount of music that he's written, which is, I had no idea when we were married. I knew that he was a very well composed person. And I was very familiar with his piano music, but I had no idea the wealth of other stuff that he had written, like into the thousands and thousands of pieces that he has written. So he is totally non-competitive. He encourages other composers. Encourages other musicians, and I think that's what I found so special about him. And he has never ever competed with me in saying, oh, you shouldn't do that, and never tried to really direct me in any way. He let me be who I am in my music, and I think that's a very special
because
thing.
I think all composers, even young children, I had to deal with in composition workshops. Everybody's got their own voice. If they're left to just, it's like asking them to write an essay or do a painting. If they write a little piece of music, immediately there's something individual about what they do. And I think the trick is to then say, this is your voice, let's go along that line, if you like, what we've done with Wendy. And I think we've fully realised, if you like, quite a lot of her pieces, which, and she approves any harmonic suggestions. She doesn't just say do some harmonisation. I do it, and then she says,
well, I write the harm. Now wait a minute.
And what I'm saying is, she writes it down, and I like to fiddle about with it because that's one of the things I like doing. But I can't get away with much. fiddling. But I'm just saying, it is an interesting thing. I'm working with a couple of composers at the moment where I'm saying to them, you're implying a whole lot of harmonies, but you're not really using them. In other words, they're working in a chromatic harmonic language, but they don't know enough about chromatic harmony. So for you students, in a way, that's why learning stuff is great, because it means you can fully realize who you are as well, you know, through knowing more about orchestration, about harmony, about counterpoint, and so on. I'm sounding like an academic, aren't I?
Yes, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I have a question, and it's cool also to see how your relationship too, as you are both composers and how you both like respect each other and then help each other too. So that was really sweet to hear. But my question is, when did you begin taking piano lessons? So how did you start that process?
Shall I start?
You should start because
Yeah, I was
yours was
from a
less-
very family with no music at all, and we didn't have a piano or anything like that. And it seemed obvious that I was very interested in music, particularly in classical music, to my mother certainly. And they gradually realized that they should get me lessons. And in fact, they rented a piano and found a teacher. And I was 8. But I was already playing, and the story my mother told, which I think is rather sweet. It was a nun. In other words, you often went to the local convent if you wanted to have piano lessons. And she met this teacher and said, "My son would like to get piano lessons." They said, "Well, we're full up." And she said, "Would you hear him play?" And I sat down and played. I obviously could play before I had lessons. And the nun said, "We'll find a space. We don't get many students like this across my entire lifetime. I've only had a few. So I'll take him." And she proved to be a very good teacher. But I was 8, so I didn't start super young, because I think, Wendy, you started 5 or
we
something,
started
didn't
at 5, yeah.
you? Yeah. I don't know how much difference it makes. I think I've often heard that said, that if students start at 5 or at 8, they often end up about the same place.
They do. As a teacher, having taught, I think more than probably Chris has,
Certainly more, yeah.
I always felt it was wrong to bring a child. There are exceptions, like Chris was, and you can always tell when those exceptional kids are presented. But for the most part, most kids really are learning things so quickly at that age, and there are so many competitions for what they're learning that sometimes parents observe what they're doing and think, "Oh, well, we must get them piano lessons," and push them immediately into piano lessons. And my feeling about that is that if they like to play at the piano, let them do it. Let them have fun. Let them discover the piano. Don't box them in and make them. I mean, as a teacher, we don't do that. We know how to work with young children, but it's not fair to the kids to feel that something is expected from their parents for them about music. Just let them explore, let them have fun. And once they've got well established in a school, in some places they've gone to pre-kindergarten and they've gone to kindergarten. Well, by grade 1, by 6, they're probably ready. They've learned to read to some degree. My first question to all parents was, do they know their ABCs? A, B, C, D, E, F, G? Well, we can start
Yeah,
with
we
that.
only need them to go as far as G in the alphabet.
Yeah.
H if they're looking at German music, you know.
But I think it's really important for kids to enjoy what they're doing at the piano. Everybody's seen pictures of people with their little kids. The kids are banging the piano or playing, and they're having a good time. And then all of a sudden, the parents will get them into lessons, and all of a sudden, they're not doing that anymore. They're just doing what the teacher told them to do. So I think they need to explore, and it doesn't matter what instrument it is, guitar, clarinet, whatever. Let them have fun. It's a little different with woodwinds. You have to have an armature, but
coming back to you,
yeah.
When you were 5 starting piano, did you really enjoy having lessons that young? You
Well,
probably did.
I wasn't 5. I was almost 6 at that point, and I had read early. I was reading when I was about 4, 3.5 or 4, and so I understood what was written. But I was very fortunate in one respect. We had no musical instruments in the house either. My parents loved music, but we had no background in musical playing of musical instruments. But I spent every summer of my life with my aunt and uncle and their children in a place that was close to a beautiful lake, and it was very, very lovely. And my eldest of my two cousins was a brilliant pianist, and she was 6 years older than I was. And I can remember so often when she would practice at night, I would sit quietly on the Chesterfield in the sitting room so that my aunt wouldn't know that I was there and send me up to bed because I wanted to see her and hear her practice.
Listening to things like
I just,
Fantasy Impromptu of Chopin
yeah,
and that,
I
quite hefty
loved the
repertoire.
music. And she was the youngest. Of course, in Canada, we had at that time something called the ATCM, which was taken over by the ARCT with the Royal Conservatory of Music. She was the youngest student to receive her ATCM at that time. I think she was 11. There was no theory component then, so
It's like a
it
recital.
was just pianistically, but she was brilliant, and I just loved to hear her play. So
But Wendy and I were the same in that regard. I just listened to the radio and gravitated towards classical repertoire. It's funny, there's nobody told me anything about it. And Wendy was the same. She was listening to classical repertoire played by her cousin very well and loving it at a very young age. So you do find that students can actually appreciate classical music very, very young.
but the other thing is that I appreciated all other kinds of music too. I loved Western music. I loved jazz music. I loved uh, um, Creole music. I just every kind of music. If it caught my attention, I loved it.
And Wendy
And
has
he
a
was the
remarkable
same.
memory. And in fact, she can remember the words of
I
pretty
can't
much
even
every
remember
song
my
ever
name
written
tonight.
from her childhood on. It's in
Wow.
other words, all that stuff stuck. And when she writes, as when I write, it all comes out in a way. The subtle influences of both popular music and classical influences are blended together, and that in a sense makes us quite similar writers, I think.
Oh, I'm very honored. Thank you. I'm similar. Woo!
Quite similar.
Oh, just spoiled the
That's
whole thing.
great. Yeah, wow, that's awesome. And of course, like Chris, I've heard you talk about, I mean, it was great to hear some of these answers again, but I've never gotten to hear like Wendy your story and your side of things with composing. So I'm really honored to get to hear all about you too. So this has been great so far. Thank you. Um, yeah, I was wondering if we could hear some of your stuff that
Yeah.
you have prepared. And
Yeah. So
yeah,
can you allow me to share my screen?
yeah.
Um,
Let me.
you just have to do something, don't you?
Yeah, I have to make you a co-host.
Oh, you technicians, you.
Oh, there we go.
Right.
And I'll
Oh.
share sound. And
No, we have to. Yeah, unfortunately, have to get super used to Zoom because of the last few years.
so that's
There
my
we go.
screen, but I'm going to go into a little keynote here. Won't be a second.
Perfect.
Won't be, I've got it pretty handy. Look at that.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Oh, God.
No, look at that. So
Fancy.
you can still hear me talking as you see the screen, can't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm starting with me, and I'm going to talk. I've got little snippets. They're not very long, so it's just giving an overview. But one of the things I thought you might find interesting is a very early piece I wrote. I was probably 16 years old when I wrote this, and you'll be surprised, Melody, perhaps, to hear the style of this, because this is the kind of pieces I liked to write when I was first writing. and so on. So you can tell that's a very different style from what I write now. But
I would not have guessed that was you.
yeah, and
Yeah, wow.
I've written quite a lot of music like that, which is slightly more abstract, slightly more atonal, and it's about the New Zealand bush, so it's kind of pictorial as well. But at the age of 16, I also wrote a rumba for cello and piano, which because I was interested in popular music by then, and we started trying. And this has just been published by 80 Days Publishing. So I've got my own publishing company, and we've published that this year. So it's how many years is that? It's like 50
Four?
something years later.
Oh, 50.
We've actually put it all
Wow.
together. Yeah. So those are two very early pieces of mine. And then the other thing I thought you might be interested to see is when I came to the UK way back in 1977, I was published quite quickly by Universal Edition. Universal Edition, among other things, published Schoenberg and Karl Orff. But I was picked up by their education person, and he asked me to write a set of improvisations on Christmas carols. And this was posted on YouTube this week, not by me, but by somebody on YouTube, basically. And it's from Carol Jazz. And it's a very nice performance of the piece as well, I think. And so on. So that's, again, very different. Microjazz came about in 1981, 1982, and it's the 40th anniversary this year of Microjazz being written. This is the big series which I wrote for Boozy and Hawks, and that's a selection of the piano books. This was an edition which came out after 25 years, but it's now 40 years. So that's a selection of the books. And following that, I also did a series of books called Preludes, and there's actually altogether 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them now. Pacific Preludes is a very recent one. And I just thought I'd show you a snippet of, oh yes, this is Pacific Preludes. And so on. Now, that is, of course, a well-known piece called Cholito Lindo. It's a South American piece. And the Pacific Preludes and Eastern Preludes used existing folk songs and popular songs from countries around the world, whereas the other preludes are just invented. Coming back to microjazz, this is the most popular piece in microjazz. Students absolutely love that piece, and it's pretty easy.
I love it too.
But it's quite sophisticated as well. And here's Dreaming On from the Rock Brothers. Not all of it, just a snippet from it. But again, this is a lovely concert piece for somebody who's perhaps 12 to 14 years old, say. And so on. So you can tell there's a wide variety of styles, and this culminated, you might say, in 2007 with the Connection series for piano. There's 10 volumes of that now, and there's also a beginner book. So there's 11 altogether. In the basic piano, there's also 2 books of duets, and there are now volumes for flute and piano, violin and piano, etc., etc. But this is the basic series. Came out in 2007 and is still being added to in 2021. And I own this series and publish it myself. So I'm with Boozy and Hawks, but I also publish myself, which is an interesting combination. Here's one of the pieces from Connections 3, which is particularly popular. So on. Now, what's really exciting, this particular interview we're doing today coincides with the launch of my entire repackaged catalogue from Boozy and Hawks, which includes all the microjazz books, but also the concert collections for piano and the preludes and everything. One of the reasons being that all the original books come out with CDs attached, and so they're reissuing everything with new covers and with no CDs, but with associated order on every platform. And that's what the new ones look like. So this is the first time anybody has heard these. This is a world premiere that's going on right now. And here is a piece from Microjazz Collection 4, which is actually being issued for the first time on the 22nd of November. So
That's today or tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
So Strawberry Soda from Microjazz Collection 4, brand new. And all the backing tracks, which includes band and solo piano performances, are going to be on all digital platforms. So here is Strawberry Soda from Microjazz Collection 4. And now,
Yeah.
Mrs. Norton. And she'll speak to these pieces, hopefully.
Really?
So, first of all,
First of all,
Canadian born.
I was Canadian born. I was born in Toronto, Ontario. Grew up in Hamilton, moved back to Toronto after I was married. And some years later, when our children were almost into their teens, we moved out to the east coast of New Brunswick, or to New Brunswick on the east coast of Canada. And I taught piano there for, I hate to admit it, 40 years or close to. And these are pieces that I have actually composed since Chris and I married in 2014. Both of us were widowed. I was widowed back in 1999. And so for 14 years, my life really was my family and teaching music and loving my students because they were so wonderful, but not having any chance to. I composed a number of pieces, but not with any intent, as I said before, to publish them. So it wasn't until Chris and I met that he encouraged me to put some things together and to start writing again, which I did. So this is what I've got.
And we managed to get 3 books published so far of piano pieces.
Yes, 2 by Deborah Wanless.
Who's a Canadian distributor.
A Canadian distributor. And my last one, So Here We Are Again, by 80 Days Publishing.
So you can hear all the pieces on these on Spotify if you just look for Wendy's name there. But here is one which I'm playing.
I'll listen to it tomorrow on my drive.
Take It From Me is the first book, and this is a piece of Wendy's from Take It From Me. So that's all available on YouTube, that whole album. So if you look up Wendy's name on YouTube, you'll find all of Take It From Me on film as well. Now, we mentioned before about Glendalough, this piece, which was written from Take It From Me Again, written with a title from a memory of a place in Ireland.
A wonderful place in Ireland.
And this is just a little piece of this to hear what it sounds like. So then on to the third album. Here's the piece we mentioned in the interview, Chacon, and you can see the music of this as well as hearing it. So that's lovely, isn't it? And that's a very different style from the other two pieces. Wendy's also co-wrote the micro musical series, and I just got a little snippet here of one of these because we've had many of these, in fact, all of them done by schools in London, England, when we were working over there during the years 2014 to 18.
18,
I suppose,
and,
yeah.
and we miss these kids greatly because they were just wonderful to work with.
So this is a collaborative effort between me and Wendy, this piece, and you can hear how the children really enjoy it. So these are children, probably 5 years old, and they're all primary school children, obviously, and from a very wide variety of backgrounds in terms of languages and ethnicity, if you like. So,
and one of the lovely things about the micro music programs is that every child, regardless, within a class, is part of the production. No one is sitting on the sides, and no matter whether they're children who have some difficulties with things, there's always a place for them within it, and it's wonderful. And we've watched those children over the 4 years that we were teaching there. We watched a lot of these children develop so fast and so greatly from being involved in this kind of a program.
And then recently we've put out 10 books of songs from the micro musicals, which are graded for vocal students. And just to show you a little snippet of one of these, a piece from The Day of the Dead, a micro musical, which is a Mexican setting, which, again, a collaborative effort. So I'll need to go back a screen on that and forward a screen on that. Here we go. Just takes a while to catch.
Angel, we are left to grieve. Come to visit on All Hallows Eve. Little child, oh little child, how I do miss your essence bright. Angelito, come to visit us this night.
And so on. Now, this is very interesting. This is something which is like almost a commissioned job. We were approached by someone who had found translations from the German by John Wesley of hymns, basically, and they wanted settings. I'd done quite a few hymn settings in the past, and this person had liked what I'd done. And because Wendy's such a good tune writer, I suggested she write the melodies for these, and she did. And it's come out in a book called Eternal Depth. And the whole book is also available on Spotify, and it's called, on Spotify, Wesley Rediscovered. And this is one of the pieces, just to show you a little bit of this. This is very different. And we've used singers from all around the world and musicians from all around the world during the lockdown, if you like, to do this.
Including my granddaughter, who celebrated her 17th birthday today.
Yes. So this is one of the...
Extended on a cursed tree, be smeared with dust and expires the Son of God. Ooh, my Savior, this hath done. Who could thy sacred body wound? No guilt thy spotless heart hath known. No guile hath in thy lips been found.
And then, very much up to date, Wendy has just a book of songs published with 80 Days. And you want to explain the title of this book?
This is called Think of Me. And this is one piece that I did write before Chris and I got together at the time that my childhood friend had passed away as a result of the complications of early dementia. And I just felt so sad and so badly that she was never able to have the memories that she had as a child with her till the time she died. She knew nobody towards the end of her life. So this sort of prompted me to write this piece.
Think of me, if just a memory, when life has let you down and true friends can't be found. Just know that I won't let those memories die. I'll hold them safe inside, where secret treasures hide. And I'll be there each time you need me. And I won't need a map to lead me to where you are. I'll find you and bind you with my love.
And so on. So there we are. And I'm able to be accessed in terms of sheet music from ChristopherNorton.com. Wendy Edwards Beardall Norton.com is her website, and the 80 Days site is also where her music is also available, as well as DeborahWanders.com. So we're available through various places. So I'll stop sharing now in case you've got any final questions.
I'll go to sleep.
But that's quite a sort of good overall survey of what we do, isn't it?
That was awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. Wendy, you really are such a beautiful lyrical writer. Like, yeah, very, emotional. Yeah. Writing. I love that. I think Renee had a good time. I don't know, Renee, what your familiarity is with Norton's.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar at all with any of your works actually. So this was really, really helpful just to like hear some bits and pieces of them. And I really enjoyed them a lot. And it makes me want to buy all the books and like sight read all of them and just kind of explore too. But like I know like growing up as a child and learning like piano, like I would have loved to be immersed with like some of like your music and stuff. It just sounds fun. So I'll definitely use it when I teach students as well. So yeah, so I just really enjoyed it. And you wrote the words in the last song that we listened to, right? Yeah, that's just so, it's beautiful. So yeah, you guys are very talented. So thanks for taking the time. So
Thank you. It's so lovely to get to know you.
yeah, thank you.
And we wish you the very greatest success when you do get out there teaching. I'm sure you'll be a wonderful teacher, especially when you've had teachers like Melody.
Well, I, I don't have anything that I've been, no. Yeah, no, yeah, since the last time I was telling Chris, since the last time I've talked to you, yeah, moved here to Florida. I'm now studying with Dr. Dumlawala. I don't know if you've ever met her, but
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I've been now studying the pedagogy program with Diana Dumlawala, and she's amazing. Yeah, I'd love for you to meet her at a conference or something one of these times. I've already gained a lot of knowledge and experience in these last few months from her, and I'm sure Renee can say the same. Yeah, and anyway, yeah, I don't know if I mentioned, I used Chris, I used some of the micro jazz pieces in my lecture recital in my master's as talking about how to bridge the gap between classical pianists, purely pianists, and jazz. That was a wonderful example of how to expose students to fun genres just outside of your normal Bach and Beethoven.
That's right. In fact, and you're probably aware, aren't you, that the Connection series is like the same but bigger. I've done a similar thing, and that seems to have struck a chord with teachers and students in the same way. So that is definitely my thing, if you like. And it's quite interesting. That is my thing, if you like, is that bridge between classical and popular styles. But what do you think your thing is?
Again,
It's slightly different,
I'm just
isn't
a
it?
lyrical. We were at a convention at one point, and everyone who was presenting had to speak about themselves. And I heard all of these wonderful people like Christopher say what they did and how many things they'd written, and I was really at the beginning of my last run at this, and I said, I think really I'm a tune flogger and a lyricist. That's my main thing. Even when I'm writing something in a classical vein, it still has to have, to me, and maybe maybe it's my age reflecting, but maybe it's just because from the time I was a very, very young child, music infiltrated my brain. We have I don't know whether it's an apocryphal story, but my mother told me that when I was about 2, and in those days they used playpens quite liberally for children, and I was out in a playpen, and a woman came to my mother's door, knocked on the door, and she said, "Do you know that your little child, is out there in the playpen singing?" I figured it was
Classical gas?
no, it was a popular rendition of a Mozart piece, and I was humming it because I used to hear it all. My mother would turn the radio on, and she couldn't believe that at that age I was able to sit out there and hum the piece. But music has always moved me very deeply.
But also, Wendy was a dancer and a dance teacher,
Yeah,
and I think
and a clarinetist
But
too.
what I'm saying is dance and words, I think, are two of the things
And
which
a
kind of
singer. I was
and very
at
much
one
she's still a
time.
singer,
I was.
really.
Oh no, I'm not.
I mean,
But
what I'm saying is singing is at the heart of what she does, and to a certain extent, it's mine as well. But I'm a slightly more sort of you might call cerebral composer in
well,
that
of
sense.
course you are, and I'm not. I mean, I'm cerebral to the point of knowing
Like
the
I'm happy to
difference
write
between.
a big concert piece for certain instruments, if you like, just as an exercise,
Yeah.
while still trying to imbue it with good ideas. But Wendy, in a way, is thinking all the time, what does this piece mean in terms of its title and lyrical content, if you
Because
like.
I'm a writer, I guess basically at heart I'm a writer, and so therefore it's got to tell a story. Something there's got to be a story there somewhere, and so it's just a totally different way of approaching
And I should say that the
expressing.
songs, the book, we played you a little bit of "Think of Me," which is a very striking song, but the songs on that are really outstanding. And I still think once we put them out there and we have the audio and all the digital platforms, people are going to find them because they're so good, you know. So
Melody, you'll be pleased, I think, to think that one of the pieces in that book is "Measure of a Man." That I wrote for Giovanni, and the other two. One is one I wrote for my younger grandchildren. The 17-year-old today, they're talking about her and her younger brother, and about Christmas Eve, and it's just the music is quite lovely, but the lyrics with the music are quite, to me, very touching. And the other one is a very lovely love one. My husband keeps telling me I wrote it for him.
But what I might do, if you've just got a moment, I'll just show you a little bit of the beginning of that other song, because it's
Yeah,
really,
definitely.
just hang on, I'll share my screen again. I have to do this slightly differently because, in fact, it's accessed by email. What I mean is,
No worries.
I'll just find it here. Here we go. And actually, what I might do is find it by Dropbox. Won't be a second.
Oh my!
I mean, this is typical of what people do.
No worries. It takes me forever to pull up anything. I have so many windows open all the time.
Yeah, memory in my mind.
Memory in my mind.
Now, this. Do you want to do you remember the beginning of the words of this? So here we are again.
So here we are again, and that's why I entitled the third book. So here we are again. It's the first line of Memory in My Mind. So if Chris has found it,
yeah, I have.
Here
Yeah,
it is.
I'll just play you the audio of this. It's a really wonderful song. I'll stop talking.
So here we are again. Long time no see and all of that. We're feeling shy and kind of scared. All those feelings so had. But now you're here, your eyes are telling me so much more than what you're saying. And in my head, the doubt is gone. I know that you're staying. Sitting face to face, looking in your eyes, feeling each other with all the details of our life, reaching out to touch the face that I love, and I'm holding on, making every moment a memory in my mind.
So isn't that something?
Oh, don't do that.
Sorry.
Rude.
Well, I'm a fan. Anyway.
Very, very pretty. I love that. And sorry, is that one of the ones that's on Spotify? I forget.
No, this is a book that's about to come out. And
That's about to come out. Gotcha.
yeah, because we've done quite a lot of songs for younger voices, like the ones from the market musicals are all for grade 1 to 5, as they call it in Canada. These are really more sophisticated songs for adult singers. You might say they're kind of art songs, but they're in a popular vein. But they're really quite unique, I think. There's nothing quite like them, and they're all about memory. And as Wendy said,
Memories.
Yes.
This book is called Memories, and I just want to give a little plaudit to our lovely singer, who is an American girl, who has worked for many, many years with Chris, and has worked with us on our micro musicals too. And she just has a wonderful way of expressing a song, and she's done all the 4 songs in this, and her name is
Ingrid Dumosh.
Yes. Well, you say tell them.
But she's based in Seattle.
Seattle.
So what was interesting about these as well, just a little side point, is that I did the song accompaniments with Wendy singing beside me, and she wanted them to be played very freely. So I followed all this sort of slowing down, speeding up, and Ingrid got those very free piano parts to work with. So you're hearing somebody doing something to a vocal, sorry, to a piano comp that was done to a free vocal, and then sent without the vocal.
Which is very hard when you're just thousands.
That would be very hard.
Makes it
Yeah.
sound very organic, doesn't it?
Mhm.
There's obviously nothing of a click track about that performance. It's lovely.
Yeah, I would have thought that was totally just, yeah, like very natural sounding. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
That's us.
Wow.
So that's us. So we're working on various projects. I've got more new books coming out for Boozy and Hawks. A book of duets, for instance, which is coming out next year.
Duets?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm working on my fourth book. I think I've done
Yeah.
4 pieces in a book that will be coming out probably sometime next year, I hope.
Ooh.
So we both like writing, and it's just nice with this lockdown, if you like.
Yeah.
That's kind of
We haven't done a lot of traveling, you can well imagine.
no,
We've been
nothing,
pretty
nothing at
well
all, which we
home.
love. Not traveling, I mean.
We like traveling too. We love to see the people that we love. But
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I guess that's good for one thing, a lot of productivity at home. So I'm excited to see what you both will come out with next. I'm excited to see that duet book next year, and Wendy, your fourth book. Yeah, very lovely stuff. So
well,
yeah.
thank you so
That's
much.
it.
And it's so good to
course.
see you, Melody. It really is. We follow you on Facebook, but it's so much nicer to see you actually in person. And it's lovely to meet you, young lady. I can say that because I'm very old.
We
I'm
feel-
not
No,
saying
yeah.
this- no, I'm sorry, this is not musical. But I let my son, or grandson, this is who will be 32 in January, grandson, my car a couple of years ago when I was going to Europe, a couple of years before Chris and I got married. And he took off. He was so thrilled. He took off with it. He was 22 at the time. So this is quite a long while ago. The police stopped him. The registration was out of date because that year they hadn't been notifying people that the registration was due. And so the police made a big poof about it. They're going to take the car away. So he phoned me and he said, Grandma, they're going to take the car. And I said, what do you mean they're going to take the car? So policeman got on with me, he explained the situation. I told him he was full of hot air because they didn't give me any notification. And so I said, what can I do? I said, you're not towing that car away. I said, my grandson's sitting in it. So he said, well, look, you can do it online. So I had to go and at that time, I had to boot up your stupid thing. I did. I was getting it all in line. And I hear the policeman saying to my grandson, because I had earphones on, he said, what's the matter with your grandmother? She's taking a long time. And this brat of a kid who was 22 years old said, she's an old lady. He's very musical too. He was when I whacked him across the ears. No, but as you get older, you appreciate so much of the opportunities you've had in life. And I think if those are the things that we concentrate on, the opportunities we've had, the things that we've done with those opportunities, and the things that we've explored and we've seen and done in the years that we've had, I think we should be also grateful. And despite COVID's a pain in the butt, and it's a terrible thing for those people who have suffered from it. But other people have witnessed much worse things. Even in Britain, even the UK during the war, Chris wasn't there, he was in safe old New Zealand, but people had war. People in all countries in Europe have suffered war. We're very lucky. So I think that's what we should always be aware of, that we've had really good opportunities and make the most of them. That's
I think that's excellent. No, excellent reminder. Definitely. Yeah, I think we all need to hear that. Sometimes it's easy to get just focused in on, day-to-day problems.
Frustrated with the same things going on, but there's a lot of good stuff out there. You're showing it. You guys are out there discovering and exploring and learning, and that's perfect. That's wonderful.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we'd love to host you yeah, FSU either virtually or maybe someday in person,
I hope
Yeah,
so.
but anytime. Yeah.
We hope when COVID is over that we'll be making, some traveling
We've already got
plans
an
around.
invitation to do some big events in Oregon. So we're
So we'll work our way up
potentially.
the
Perfect.
country and then
What I'm
south.
saying is
That's where I'm from. Yeah.
Oh!
have you have you seen or heard about the film called First Cow?
First cow.
It's rather
It's
unique
rather good.
and
It's made by Kelly Reichardt, who also made a film called Meek's Cutoff, which was very popular. Anyway, it's all set in Oregon in the 1820s. It's really lovely.
it's
Huh.
quite unusual. It's quite a lovely little film.
I just wondered, because I follow various film podcasts. Film is one of my hobbies, and one thing this particular podcast has is they have little segments on which films have come from which states of America. Because obviously some films like Paris, Texas, is a famous example, but Oregon's got a few
It's a
films
beautiful,
set there.
it's a beautiful state. We really, really enjoyed seeing Oregon and I have a terrible habit of saying Oregon, Oregon,
Oregon.
Oregon.
It's okay. It happens. I've heard that.
Oh, do you watch Portlandia?
I have and actually a lot of that is pretty accurate. Where you,
Because that's so funny.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind, dear. He gets.
I'm from New Zealand, so you can mock as much as you like.
well, just the asking. I remember they were in a restaurant asking oh, what farm did the cow come from or chicken come from, and that I've heard people say that. So it's funny though. Yeah, I've watched it. But yeah, well, try that. Maybe add Florida to the list of places you'll travel to. It's warm over here, so
Yes, that would be nice. We've had snow here already for off and on. Of course, Oregon probably gets a bit of snow
Yes.
early if you're north, if you're far enough north, I guess. But we were surprised because we're in central Ontario, west, more west than central, and Ontario is not even in the middle of the country. We're more to the east, but we have had snow here off and on for the last almost 2.5 weeks, I guess, haven't we? We get a little bit, and it will last for a few days, and then it goes away.
And where are you from, Renee?
I'm from Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Oh,
Okay.
yes,
So we get snow.
yes, we know. We've been through that. We did not in snowy weather, but
But we've got Wendy's got a sister in Brooklyn, and we travelled through Pennsylvania to get there.
Yeah.
I was
Nice.
amazed
Yeah.
how many toll places there were, and I wasn't warned, so I didn't have the money, and I just ended up saying I can't do anything because they were wanting cash, and I still owe money in Pennsylvania, very small amounts.
yeah, we can't go back anymore.
I can't go back to Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, I grew up there. That's where I was born and raised, and my whole family lives in that area too. But yeah, there's a lot of nice farmland and the Amish country, and it's beautiful. So I'm excited to go home for Christmas and then be back there.
That's
So
lovely.
yeah.
Will you go home for Christmas, Melody?
yeah. I'll be going back to Oregon for Christmas. So
Beautiful.
So have you
very,
both
very pretty.
flown during the pandemic?
What?
So what I'm
I
saying
have
is,
trouble with it.
do you wear a mask do you have to wear a mask throughout the flight?
Yeah.
So I mean that's why we don't want to do an international flight, because having a mask on is bad enough for a couple of hours, but
I don't think I
Yeah.
can.
7 hours, or to New Zealand 24 hours.
You just got to keep drinking water
Yes,
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah.
I'm glad you.
or other, or other things, whatever. Yeah.
No,
Ready,
water.
Melody?
Water
Ready?
will hydrate you. The other things will dehydrate you. You have a sister, do you not, Melody? You have a
I have a
sister.
I do have a younger sister. Yeah. Oh, good memory.
Pictures of you with her.
Has she?
So-
Her Harmony is her name, or?
I know that would have been a clever decision. Now her name's Grace, but she just got a job as a director of bands at a high school in Oregon, so that's what she's doing.
Isn't
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's,
goodness.
I mean, it's quite a tough. It's like getting a job as a sports instructor, isn't it? You really need to know what you're doing. Director of bands.
Yeah. I'm proud of her. I mean, she's super young. Like, I think she's 21.
We had
Oh,
So
she's
just graduated. Yeah.
a baby.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Oh, wonderful. Do you have
Yeah.
siblings, Renee?
I do. Yeah, I'm the middle child, so I have an older brother and then a younger brother.
Your brother.
So
Well,
I'm right in the middle there.
well, but you're a girl. You have a brother, girl. So I mean,
I know, yeah.
that's so middle child stuff.
and
I know, yeah. I say that I'm the favorite out of the fam because I'm the only girl, so I'm mom's favorite, I'm dad's favorite, and my brother's favorite, and
it's a bit of a shock when you come to the real world, isn't it?
I know. Quite difficult. It's been an adjustment. Just kidding.
That's right. I'm sorry.
But no, I love my family, so yeah.
That's lovely. That's
So
wonderful.
we're in an unusual case, of course, because I'm from New Zealand, Wendy's from Canada. So I mean, the fact that we've got together so late in life as well, we've realised how many things we have in common gradually, and composition is certainly one of them. You know, that we both hear music the same way. We do like the same
We
music,
do.
don't we?
Mhm.
And including a wide range of music. So we're listening to classical music one day, we're listening to Ray Charles the next, or Chick Corea.
We met Chick Corea. I met Chick Corea.
Or
I
Sting.
met Sting.
Oh, what?
We talked to Sting for half an hour. I tell you, I was so impressed. I can't tell you. But Chick Corea was coming off the stage, and I
In
just
London.
in London. I was taking up to take a picture, and he just stopped and leaned down and took my hand. And I've been a Chick Corea fan since I was this old. Well, no, maybe not, 'cause I don't think I was. But what a lovely man, and Sting too. Um, Believe it or not, for a guy who has got so far in what he does, and is worth so much money, he's the most down to earth and very, very gracious guy, wasn't he? Anyway, that's way off.
That's awesome.
But no,
I'm just showing the range of things we
no,
like.
we love. My
Remains
son
well.
was a punk rock performer, so I go the whole bag of beans from one end to the other.
That
Anyway,
just makes it even cooler. You like listen to all this music. Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And if you want, anybody's interested, I can always do a little kind of fact sheet or whatever to give out to people who are interested.
well, she's got it on the screen.
Well, I've given you a PDF, but that's really of the presentation. But I can do like a synopsis if you like. If you
That-
you know,
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to give it to the other members who weren't able to make it today. And of course I recorded this as well, and we'll be posting that if that's okay. But yeah, no, that would be awesome. If it's not inconvenient, you can just go ahead and email me that
Yes.
whenever you have the chance.
yeah, just so people have got the links to where they can get the music and that sort of thing.
Right. I know Renee will want that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you again so much for your time and for showing us all of your wonderful music. It was so great to see both of you again. It's been a while.
It has been.
And
quite
we
a
were
while.
commenting again on our way home how it's so sort of inconceivable that Giovanni is gone.
Oh, let's get into that right now.
But I mean, it because obviously we've got to an age where we have lost people, but that was a shocker,
Yeah, it happened so suddenly, really.
I'm still in shock from that. I
Felt
still
so-
can't
So
believe
sorry
that
for
happened.
his wife as well. Yeah.
Anyway, that's not the note to end on. The note to end on is Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas.
Lovely to meet you both, or to meet you, Renee, and lovely to see you again, Melody.
To see you as well.
We'll be in touch.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Have a great night. Bye.
Thank you.